Well, welcome back to the shop. Want to see me break some stuff? Watch the video. Here we go. All right, so we are back with the videos. We started this project during the week. We had some downtime. We have been very busy installing and wrapping up 2 large projects. And finally, we got a little bit of time to get this thing done. So this is the Laguna Flux 5 dust collector that we are making space for. And you can see what a mess the shop is and what a mess those dust collectors make. We had a few holes in the bags and the corner would just get filled with dust. And you guys see in all my videos how bad my dust collection setup has been. So this is a major upgrade and I am stoked to finally be setting this up. Now, I knew when we started this that this was going to be a big project because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that need to get done to get this all set up. Turns out I made it into an even bigger project. So anyways, got this thing out of the crate and it is difficult to move around. It is very heavy and awkward and you need to get it up in the air to get the legs underneath it. Now, Rowdy and Roger MacGyvered this thing and came up with a good idea to use the come-alongs to lift this thing up in the air. And I stood and watched while they did the work. And it was the end of the day and we wanted to at least get it up in the air and just see if it would work. And yes, it was working. Pretty smart. And so the next day, my brother-in-law, we were at a job in the morning and then I actually had a tattoo appointment. So he was in here by himself. He got that thing lifted all the way up and put the legs on all alone and then got it lowered down. And it worked out great. And you could see what a disaster the shop was. So he actually spent the rest of the afternoon on Friday just kind of cleaning up and organizing a bit. And then I was in on Saturday morning by myself to take over and start figuring this whole setup out. So assembly of this thing is actually really easy. Besides getting the legs on, there's not a ton of assembly. You have to put together this can that the bags go into where all your dust goes. But other than that, there's not a ton of assembly, which is really nice. The recommended way to put the legs on is actually use a forklift. There's hooks above so you can lift it up and then get the legs on. Obviously in my shop we can't use a forklift inside, so that's why we had to come up with another way. But yeah, this is just the canister here going together. Pretty easy assembly. And then before you know it, that was all set. And you can use this thing with bags, and there's a way to use it without bags as well. And then I took some silicone that came with it to just seal up the inside so there's no air leaks. And then this thing just hooks on super easy and seals up. So it's going to be really nice to use this thing. So I've literally hit a standstill for the last hour and a half. I even went home and ate lunch and have just really been thinking about this. So with the dust collector in that corner, It is super windy out. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's howling. So anyways, with the dust collector in that corner, I just don't really know if I want it there. In my head, that's just automatically where it was going to be. And now that it's built and it's in the corner, and I know I need to take down all this ducting to rework everything, I'm kind of rethinking everything in here. And as much as I don't want to move everything around, I think I'm going to move some stuff around. I wanted to reconfigure these machines over here a little bit. I was thinking just pulling them this way a little to give us more room back there. But now I'm kind of thinking something completely different. Let's take a look. So there's a bunch of things to think about with this. Obviously, the dust collection ducting is coming down and we're redoing it. So with that, one of my other thoughts was the way that it comes out of the new dust collector on the right side here, it's going to be kind of awkward if it's right there, because it's got to come over to here, get down to the table saw, and then back that way to get to the other machines. So that's one thing. The other thing is my power, my electrical, and trying to avoid having to run new circuits and everything like that. I will, obviously, if we have to, but trying to avoid that if we can. And the other thing is just like layout and what's going to be most efficient. And if there's ever a time to do it, it's right now, because like I said, I have to rework the ductwork. I'm also kind of limited on my panel, so I have to kind of be careful where I put things, because I only have a few 30 amp circuits. And so, yeah. So what I'm thinking is edge bander, which is behind you guys, will end up coming over down here and go next to the sander. Joiner and planer are going to turn 90 degrees and go this way. The new dust collector is going to go back here where the edge bander is. First thing I thought was, well, it's kind of nice having the edge bander right next to the table saw. It's nice and it's not nice, because if I'm running stuff and I've got Rowdy or Roger running stuff through the edge bander, it's not nice because we're on top of each other and I've got to like do a cut and then he can run a piece, so it's kind of annoying. It is nice if I'm cutting stuff and running the edge bander myself, because I can make a cut and run a piece. So it's like, you know, give and take. And most of the time we're cutting everything and then running everything at once. That's how we most of the time will do it. So if I cut all my parts, have them on a cart, and then roll it over here to use the edge bander, I'm okay with that. It's not that big of a deal. I don't think I'm going to move the table saws at all. At least I'm going to try not to. But then the nice thing about this, with having the dust collector behind you guys, would be one straight shot of ducting coming straight down with drops to each machine, rather than having to make a bunch of turns and stuff like that to get down to the machines. This is going to kind of be one of those things where I just got to get the pallet jack and move some machines around and just kind of play Tetris and see what's going to work. So yeah, let's start moving some machines. So we had to go through and unhook some electrical and stuff. Obviously, I did make sure I turned off the breakers on the machines before I moved them. I hate messing with electrical stuff. I really do. Luckily, my father-in-law is an electrician, so he's the one who kind of always helps me out with that stuff. But he's not around, so I gotta be able to do some stuff myself. And then this little cluster of machines here is going to get reworked. I'm moving the bandsaw. The setup works good with having the bandsaw there, but now that I have extra space, I think I can find a better place for the bandsaw and kind of tighten this up with the joiner and the planer. The joiner is another one of those machines that is difficult to move. You can't get the pallet jack under it, so I just kind of got to shimmy it onto there. And then if you remember, I built that platform a while back just because that joiner is really low to the ground, and I like having it up a little higher. And look at that. all that dust in the planer. I milled a couple pieces the other day without any dust collection hooked up, so that's why it's clogged. And some of these machines are super heavy, and on the pallet jack, the wheels kind of dig into that OSB plywood. And then I'm over here thinking again. All right, so far so good. I think my plan is gonna work. Getting those twisted, or turned sideways, the joiner and the planer. This thing is freaking so heavy and very difficult to move because obviously I can't get a pallet jack underneath it. I don't have a lift thing to pick it up, so just kind of shimmying it, and yeah, this is a bear to move. But first, so I'm going to move some of this stuff. The little shaper can be moved. That for coping will go in the corner. This shaper is gonna stay. I've never really been too crazy about this setup. I do like this here. I don't like having this so close to it. You're just kind of crammed in over here. So all this stuff that's right here is gonna move and probably go in the corner where the dust collector is sitting right now. But before I do that, and really before I move anything else around, I need to get that out of the corner. And so I'm gonna see if I can lift it one corner at a time and get it on some dollies, and then wheel it around. Gonna be a little sketchy by myself, but I think we can manage. And then once I get that out of there, I can move this stuff. This is gonna come forward, and I'm honestly even thinking about moving this shaper, pulling the sander out to like here and moving that shaper down there. I just need to make sure I have enough clearance in front and back. That's the biggest thing, is like moving stuff around, making sure you have clearance around everything, enough clearance to run material through. So just kind of got to keep shimmying stuff around. So this is where things get interesting. Getting that up onto those blocks and then onto the dollies was kind of a pain in the butt. I did utilize the pallet jack to get it onto those blocks, and then I only had one other dolly, so this was the next best thing was using the pallet jack with some boards going across on the backside. And then it was just awkward going back and forth. It would have been nice if I had somebody on the front guiding the front. And then here is where it all goes down. Yep. All right, well, that was not really that smart of me. I thought about it earlier when I had the thing before I got the pallet jack under it over there. I was like, I should really check the height to make sure I'm gonna clear these lights. And then I got totally focused on just maneuvering this thing that I forgot to look up there and make sure that motor wasn't going to hit the lights. And, well, we broke some. Luckily, I have some new bulbs over there. Hopefully, I didn't break the things on the end. That was stupid. Anyways, I've got to drop the pallet jack down now. I've got to get the edge bander and move it. I think I'm going to bring it around that way. And then I can shimmy this thing. I'm going to have to squeeze it through here to clear the garage door openers, or the rail, for the garage door, and more lights there that I'll probably have to take those bulbs down to get it past, unless I can get it around it. We'll see. All right, so before I can move this thing any further, I had to put it down and bring the pallet jack around because the edge bander was in my way. So we had to get this thing out of our way so that we can get the dust collector into that corner. And then we could start moving it again very carefully. Can't really see the rail right there. That's what for the garage door, that's what I'm trying to shimmy around. There it is. And then we've got the light, which I was going to take the bulbs down, but then I was like, you know what? I think I can get around it. And yeah, I was able to. So that was pretty sweet. get it nice and tight to the wall as best I can, and then dropping it down was a little sketchy, but we did it. I wouldn't recommend trying to do this alone, or this way at all, maybe. But yeah, we did it, and it all worked out, and it's in its home now. This thing is not moving for a long time. Yeah. And I was jamming out to some reggae, had the reggae station on, and I had to move my lamello sign because you couldn't see it. You need to see the lamello sign. If you need a lamello, let me know. Shoot me an email. I'll get you hooked up with a sales rep. And then I had to vacuum all the glass from the light that I broke on top of the sander. Or not the sander, the dust collector. That's the sander. And this thing is super heavy. And like the corners, it just slide it. They just dig into the floor. This machine is like really, really awkward to move. I think I'm actually going to make a platform and leave it up a little bit higher so that I can always just get the pallet jack right under it. And I'm not moving this much. I don't have a lot of slack in the wire. Just moving it a little bit to give me a little more clearance from the joiner and planer. And then I could bring the edge bander over. And pretty much as soon as I got to this point right here, I knew it wasn't going to work. Not at all. I don't really know what I was even thinking. So we moved it back. And it's obviously going to be shifted down a little bit. It was kind of where the dust collector is right now. So it'll just be shifted down. I don't know why I didn't really think of putting it there in the first place. But yeah, much better. All right, so that's as far as we're getting today. This week, we probably still got a couple days as far as getting everything hooked up, running new ducting and all that. I did order new stuff. I was going to reuse this, but I just ordered new stuff. We're going to do a 10-inch line. It's going to break off and drop down to each machine, and just going to do it right. So I have the guys in here Monday and or this week, and yeah, we're going to keep getting after it. But I think I like the layout here. The edge bander is going to have to come this way a little bit more just to clear that, to clear the dust collector. And we have a ton of room over there. So I think we're going to shift the saws over like a foot, and that will kind of give us more space here, and it won't be so crammed. I was hoping to put that over there, but it's not going to work. Not enough clearance, because every once in a while you got to run the end of like a tall door or something like that, and just wouldn't really work. So edge bander's back over here, shifted down, and then we have some work over there. I got to move that cabinet. So there's a ton of little stuff to do still, but I'm glad I did this because I feel like I like this layout much better. We'll come over here and look, but there's a lot more room around the machines. Obviously we got to put some light bulbs back up there. But the joiner and planer turned 90 degrees. The joiner was kind of on an angle going this way before. I still got to get the platform underneath it. But I think I like this better. It was always tight running stuff. The joiner was okay going that way, but the planer, it was always tight over here. Like when you had longer boards to run through, and it was just like working around it and going this way. And then if we had cabinets set up over there, it was always just kind of annoying and tight to work around. So I feel like this is going to be better. Got plenty of room to run long boards through the joiner and the planer, and then there's just way more room back here and around the planer than there was when it was over there. So this is going to be better, I think. And obviously having this big rack down, all this stuff, some of this stuff will be getting out of here. I can't stand the clutter. So this is going to get organized. Obviously, there's a bunch of cleaning that still needs to get done and stuff moved around. The hinge boring machine, not sure where I'm going to put that. I do want to build it into a bench somewhere with dust collection and everything hooked up, because it's kind of annoying having to wheel it out to hook it up to the air and everything. I want it like in a bench somewhere up against the wall where I can just come up and drill my doors. And yeah, be done with it. And I want to have dust collection hooked up to it because that thing makes a freaking mess. So this is definitely better. I've got the coping shaper back here. It's going to go there. I never really liked it over there. It was just crammed and tight. So this is going to give us some more space. Let me bring the camera over so we can get a look over here. Did not move this shaper. We did shift the sander a little bit, mostly because the cord that's going into the floor, I don't have a ton of room to move it. I could get under there and pull some more slack and move it more if I want to, but just this little bit shifting it this way, I think was good. It's plenty of clearance from the joiner and planer, and then we have more room to walk around it here rather than having that other little shaper here. So I think this is going to be fine. And then we still have a ton of room where you guys are for staging and stuff like that. And then obviously we have the other room now for staging. So having more room around the machines is going to be awesome, because especially over the last couple months, this back corner has just got like so cluttered, and using the machines over here has been really kind of annoying. You always had to move something, it seemed like, to get to a machine. I want to be able to walk up and use my machines at any time, so and not have things in my way. So yeah, I think this back corner, it's gonna get more attention, but I think it's gonna be good. So for the dust collection, we're basically gonna run a 10-inch line straight across the shop. We're gonna drop one down to the table saws, we're gonna drop one down to the joiner and planer, drop one down to the sander, and then drop one down to the shapers. And that should be good. For the edge bander, I'm probably just gonna, I have that little old Delta dust collector that I always have hooked up to that. I'll probably just continue to use that just because it's gonna kind of be awkward. I don't wanna tee off of that just to get down to the edge bander. So that will probably just keep the small dust collector over there. And then the only other thing that will need dust collection will be the hinge boring machine when I figure out where I'm gonna put it. And I mean, it may go back here up against the wall, I don't know, so we'll see. But that will get dust collection as well. So this week, all this stuff is coming down, all the old ducting. We're gonna run new, nice stuff, and it's gonna be good. All right, and then obviously, the new machine, this I'm very stoked about. Another reason that I wanted to get it out of that back corner and over here is just because it's gonna be a heck of a lot easier when we do need to empty it out, just to take the bag right outside. The dumpster is literally right outside that door. So just will be way more convenient. And this is gonna be way easier to change too. Like, it tells you when it's full, and then this just flips down and this rolls out, rather than dealing with the bags and that clamp thing. And just, you guys know, if you have those type of dust collectors, this obviously on days that we're milling, we will fill that up fast. But with it being so easy to change out, I'm good with it. So yeah, super stoked on this thing. It literally fits in here like perfectly. Obviously had a few issues trying to move it around. It's very heavy and very top heavy as well, but stoked to have this thing. And yeah, stoked to get it dialed in here with good dust collection, and it's gonna make a big difference. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This is, like I said, just part one, because we still got a ton of work to do to get the shop back up and running. If I need to use a saw at all, we've got no dust collection. So got a busy week ahead. Luckily, we're kind of in between projects right now. I'll be out. I have some meetings Monday. I'll be out in the field installing some stuff, and the guys will be in here working on odds and ends, trying to get the shop put back together. And then it's right into a busy, very, very busy summer. So the content will keep coming. I didn't put out a video last week. I'm really trying to do one every week. But with the travel baseball, my boys play. Some weeks it's just hard, and last week was very busy and time was limited, and yeah, we just weren't able to put one out. And I didn't want to just put out a random video that, whatever. So anyways, back to it. We're going to crank out a lot of content this summer, so be sure to stay tuned. The Patreon, guys, with comments and stuff, I really do my best. Between the Instagram, the YouTube, and all that, I do my best to try and answer comments. It gets difficult with the amount of comments that there are, and my time and everything like that. It gets difficult to answer them all. So my apologies if I haven't gotten to your comments. I'll do my best. I do try to block out some time throughout the week to do that. On the Patreon, the link is below, and you can join the Patreon if you want and become a member over there. We've got a good community of guys. Guys are sharing what they're building and photos, and we do a weekly YouTube live, and that's like a really great opportunity to type your questions in, and you can interact with me right on there, and I can answer your questions the best that I can. It's like I said, I try to do my best to answer them all on YouTube and Instagram, but sometimes it's hard to get to them all. So anyways, if you want to join the Patreon, link is below. I also have my Amazon store link below. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week. Peace.